The world, as I first knew it in Abidjan, Ivory Coast, was a symphony of bright fabrics and humid, salty air. I was 5 years old, small enough to believe that the red clay dust covering my sandals was ground-up magic. That magic shattered the day my mother packed my only tattered cloth doll and whispered, "You are going on an adventure, Ama, to Nigeria." I did not know it was a banishment. The journey to Lagos was a blur of noise and jostling buses, but the moment I stepped into my aunt's home, the air solidified into something sharp and unforgiving. My aunt, a woman whose smile never quite reached her eyes, did not see a niece. She saw a servant. My adventure became an immediate, grueling apprenticeship in neglect. I was instantly reduced to a housemaid, a shadow perpetually wiping the floors and tending to her numerous, spoiled children. While they ate steaming plates of jollof rice, I was given crumbs, often nothing at all. A ghost hovering near the kitchen, haunted by the smell of food I was forbidden to touch. My stomach was a constant, hollow drumbeat of hunger. But the starvation was only the beginning of the horror. In that house, a darkness lived, a silence enforced by fear. A specific uncle, a snake in the cool shadows, began to make me feel small in a way that had nothing to do with hunger. At the age of 7, I was a repository of secrets I did not understand, secrets that tasted like ash and suffocated the child in me. No one ever asked, and no one ever saw the change. Then came the accusation. "She is a witch," my aunt declared one afternoon, eyes blazing with a manufactured rage. "We must cleanse her." I was taken to a celestial pastor, a man whose white garment was stained with something much darker than sweat. My new life began at 5 a.m. sharp. The sound of the broom, not for sweeping but for beating, became my alarm clock. It cracked across my shins and back, a relentless rhythm of cruelty. I toiled, I prayed on command, I was beaten for existing. I was a vessel of fear, a child stolen by adults. When my mother finally returned to fetch me at age 8, I wasn't just thin, I was vacant. Yet in the long, crowded car ride back to Abidjan, she asked only about my manners, never about the hollowness in my gaze, never about the broom, or the shadows, or the things that stole my breath. I returned to Ivory Coast broken, only to find the abuse had simply changed its texture. Back in the vibrant chaos of Abidjan, the warmth I desperately craved from my parents was a mirage. My mother, beautiful and volatile, treated me as if I were a permanent stain on her life, a logistical error she regretted fixing. When she would go shopping, filling bags with clothes and trinkets for the other girls living in our home, daughters of family friends, cousins, I would tentatively approach, my voice small, asking for something simple, something for me. Her response was a knife twist, every time, delivered with cold surgical precision. "Why should I waste money on you? You are not useful to me." That phrase, "not useful," became the soundtrack to my adolescence. It fueled a silent, burning ambition. If I was not useful for affection, I would be useful for something else entirely. I would be useful to myself. I endured years of this emotional starvation, retreating into my studies, finding solace only in the rigid, predictable logic of mathematics and literature. I vowed that the moment I was free, I would run. That moment arrived when I secured a place at a prestigious university back in Nigeria. The irony was bitter. I was returning to the country that had nearly consumed me. But this time, it was by choice, for a purpose. I landed back in Lagos needing shelter. I reached out to another relative, an uncle, and was placed under the supervision of his wife, Auntie Ngozi. I believed, foolishly, that surely this time things would be different. Surely a relative would offer kindness. Auntie Ngozi was a woman of sharp edges and sharper ambition. She did not ask me to be a housemaid, she did something crueler. I was sent to the sweltering, noise-choked market to help sell her massive inventory of timber and firewood. Every afternoon, after long, exhausting university lectures, I traded textbooks for sawdust and sweat, hawking wood until my voice was raw. I worked tirelessly, driven by the fear of being not useful, desperate to earn my keep. But one evening, when the money pouch was counted and found short, not by theft, but by her own chaotic record-keeping, the past roared back to life. Auntie Ngozi turned on me, her face contorted in disbelief. "You are a thief, Ama, just like I thought. You stole from me. You are a fraud." The accusation, identical in its venom to the witch claim from years before, broke the dam. I stood there shaking, realizing that no matter how hard I worked, how good I was, or how useful I tried to be, these people would always choose to defy me by their own cruelty. That night, I packed a small bag and walked out, leaving my shame and her wood. I was utterly alone, yet finally, truly free. Now living in a cramped, humid hostel room near the university campus, Alma began the slow, agonizing process of reassembling herself. She had always felt that people were mean, that nobody understood her, and that she was fundamentally unlovable. She carried her past like lead chains. However, the university became her fortress. She channeled the years of silent suffering into an extraordinary focus. Her grades were phenomenal. She didn't seek out friends, but she attracted the attention of Dr. Kemi Adebayo, a renowned professor of sociology known for her sharp mind and even sharper intuition. Dr. Adebayo saw not the tired, guarded girl, but the quiet fire in her eyes. "Amma," she said one day, placing a hand on Amma's desk, "you look like you are carrying the weight of a generation. You need to write, not essays, but truth." Inspired, Amma purchased a sturdy, leather-bound journal and began what she called the architect of memory. Every night, under the buzzing, weak bulb of her room, she transcribed her past. She wrote about the hollow drum of hunger in Lagos, the terror of the broom, the specific details of the man in the shadows, and the chilling phrase, "You are not useful to me." It was scandalous, raw material, a detailed, forensic account of adult cruelty. But the juiciest discovery came months later. While researching for a project on West African property disputes, Alma stumbled upon digitized land records from Abidjan dating back years. A name caught her eye: her childhood aunt's husband. The property he had mysteriously acquired just after Alma's exile to Nigeria was the very land her own father had contested years prior. The celestial pastor, it turned out, was known locally for spiritual cleansing, but was also secretly involved in minor property fraud, coercing panicked families to sign over deeds. The pieces slammed together with blinding force. Her aunt hadn't truly believed Alma was a witch. She had used the terrifying charade of the celestial pastor to force her mother's compliance on a different hidden issue, or perhaps just to get rid of a witness. The abuse was systematic, not just arbitrary meanness. It was part of a larger, petty, and deeply criminal scheme. Alma's goal was no longer just survival, it was justice.
not from the law, but from truth. She had the dates, the names, the property records, and the detailed, searing accounts of the emotional damage in her journal. The oracle, her own unveiled memory, was ready to speak.
Years passed. Amma finished her degree with first-class honors, specializing in forensic analysis. She established a quiet, successful life in Lagos, using her knowledge to consult on civil cases. She had the professional success she craved, but the final, essential goal, to be acknowledged, understood, and loved without condition, remained elusive. One humid August, armed with her academic achievements, a new wardrobe of fiercely tailored clothes, and the heavy journal, The Architect of Memory, Amma boarded a flight back to Abidjan. This time, she was not 5 years old. She was a woman of undeniable substance. She called a family meeting, not a press conference or a formal legal proceeding, but a gathering of her immediate relatives, the aunt who had exploited her in Nigeria and her mother. It was held in the stifling, silent parlor of her childhood home, the very place where the phrase "not useful" had echoed so loudly. Amma did not yell. She simply spoke the truth, slowly and with chilling precision, like dropping ice cubes into a glass. "I am not here to beg for an apology," she began, her voice steady. "I am here to tell you exactly what you did, so that when I walk away for the last time, you can never pretend you did not know." She started with the celestial pastor, detailing the specific bruises and the time, 5 a.m., and the lies about the land transaction she had uncovered. The aunt gasped, denying everything, but the specificity of Amma's evidence was devastating. Then she turned to her mother. She did not speak of the molestation, but of its devastating emotional consequence, the resulting self-hatred she was taught to feel. She opened her journal, turning to the page where she had copied the damning line and read it aloud, her voice cracking for the only time. "Why should I waste money on you? You are not useful to me. You killed the child in me with those words, Maman. You taught me I was worth nothing. And every adult who hurt me afterward was simply acting on your lesson." The room was scandalous in its silence, the family's denial crumbling into shame. Her mother, usually rigid as a palm tree in a storm, finally broke. She didn't offer a defense. Instead, she collapsed onto the worn sofa, weeping the dry, painful tears of decades of suppressed guilt. "I was afraid, Amma. I was so afraid." It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was an acknowledgement. The facade of righteousness and ignorance maintained by the entire family for 2 decades was unveiled. The scandal was exposed not to the world, but to the toxic heart of the family itself. Amma's goal was never a public trial or political vengeance. It was the simple, profound goal of being validated, understood, and loved. Having delivered the truth, having seen the walls of denial crumble, she felt a lightness she hadn't known since she was 5 years old. She returned to Lagos and did the most important thing of all. She published her journal, The Architect of Memory, anonymously at first, as a powerful, unflinching testament to survival. The book became a phenomenon, a voice for all the children in West Africa carrying silent, unspeakable burdens. The scandal had been the family's secret cruelty. The juicy triumph was her ability to transform that cruelty into light. Amma later met Kofi, a historian, who saw her strength first and her vulnerability second. Kofi didn't need to save her. He simply needed to love her, unconditionally. When he learned her entire painful story, he didn't pity her. He looked at her journal, then at her, and said, "You are the strongest person I have ever known. You did not break." Amma finally achieved the love and understanding that had been denied her since childhood. She established a high-profile nonprofit organization in Abidjan and Lagos, dedicated to providing educational and emotional support for children pulled out of abusive domestic situations. She ensured every child in her foundation received 3 meals a day, excellent schooling,
and a relentless chorus of voices telling them, "You are useful, you are loved, you are safe." She achieved her goals. She was understood, she was respected, she was successful, and she was loved. The trauma had nearly defined her, but in the end, it was the raw, scandalous truth of her unveiling that became her greatest power. She had turned the ash of her past into a fire that warmed others.